This tutorial shows you how to use the pager in the UWAVE project data table. The pager is located at the top left corner of the data table, and it shows you a few items. It shows you what event of how many events on the page and of the total number of events you're viewing. There's 4 buttons and 2 drop downs in the pager. The buttons on the inside are the forward and back buttons. The buttons on the outside are the last page and first page buttons. The 2 drop downs allow you to change the number of events visible on the page, anywhere from 10 events to 40 events. And the second drop down allows you to jump ahead to any page, the number of pages being dependent on how many events you've got displayed. This tutorial will show you how to use the sorting features of the UWAVE project data table. When you first load the project data table, the events will be sorted by event date descending and event time descending. You can change or remove the sort by using the Control and Shift keys to change and only sort by one column. Simply left click on the column you wish to sort by. The first sort is going to be ascending, and the second time you click on the column header it will switch to a descending. To remove the sort, hold down the Control button and left click on the column header. To sort by more than one column, first click the column you would like to sort on and make sure that's ascending or descending, whichever you prefer. Then holding the Shift key, click the second column until it corresponds with the sort order that you'd like. This tutorial shows you how to use the filter function in the UWAVE project data table. Filtering is a powerful tool that allows you to present just the relevant information for your project before you print, export, download, graph, archive, or delete any of your data. You're going to filter it so that you're just doing that operation on the data that you want. There's a couple different filter types. You access these in the gray area below the column headers. The drop-down filters allow you to choose an item from the list to filter the table on that item. To clear it, go to the first blank item in the list, and that will remove the filter. There's also an open filter that allows you to filter by just typing in, for instance, in the event date, I'm going to type in a year to filter by year. I can type in a month and filter down to the month level, and you can even type in a date to filter your data even further. To do a range, you do space and then either the word to, T-O, or just a hyphen, and then you can enter the second date, and that will give you all the events between these 2 dates. Do a similar operation for the time. Say you only wanted to look at events that occurred around noon. You can just type a 12 and it gives you all the events occurring in the 12 o'clock hour. You can filter even further down, but that's usually pretty good enough to determine the date and time of the event you're looking for. Of course, to clear out multiple filters, you can just do the reset button in the top right. There's columns you can't filter on, and they're going to have a red circle with a slash through those. A really good use of this is to filter peak particle velocity. So you wanted to look at peak particle velocities that were greater than 0.2 inches per second. And you also wanted to look at frequencies less than 20 hertz. You can filter the data table down in that manner. This tutorial shows you how to use the export feature of the UWAVE project data table. Before we export, we're going to go ahead and filter the events down. So we're going to look at histogram data for BE18196, and we're going to look at data for June of 2017. So after we have our table filtered, what we're going to do is just remove some of the columns that we don't need, these file columns. That way we're just going to have type, serial number, event date, event time, location, peak particle velocity, and the peak particle velocity zero crossing frequency. I'm going to go up to export, and your export options are pop-up, which gives a pop-up on the screen itself, or download, which will download to a comma separated value file. And if you do download, you can name your CSV file whatever you want here. The default is to export only the filtered data. You can also choose all data if you wish, but that kind of defeats the purpose of filtering it. So if you didn't want to filter any data, you could always choose all. And then pop-up is selected, so after I do that, I'm going to go up and click the export button, and that gives me a nice little pop-up here of my data that I can take a look at, or of course you can copy it and paste it into a spreadsheet if you wish at that time. And if you do a download and then click the export button, that will download the file to your computer, which then you can open in a spreadsheet program like Microsoft Excel or OpenOffice spreadsheet. This tutorial shows you how to use the download function of the UWAVE project data table. It's highly recommended that you filter the table to show only the relevant information you'd like to download, and not to download all of the events, especially if you have hundreds or thousands of events, as this is going to take a lot of time and it's just really not that practical. So the first thing we're going to do is filter the data table for current events, and that's for 2017. June 22nd. So that's 29 events. That's not so bad. So if you click on the download options button, not the download, but the download options button next to the download, you'll see that you've got options to download event files, download PDF files, and download CSV, comma separated value files. The event files and the CSV files will download just by default. Most browsers are set to open PDF files as the default configuration, so you'll need to change your browser's configuration to download PDF files. So I'm going to do is show you how to download just these filtered event files. So I'm going to select filtered event files, then I'm going to click the download button. And you'll notice that these are being downloaded at the bottom of the screen. And in the Google Chrome browser, you can click on the Show All button, and you can see the actual files being downloaded. I'm going to close the download tab. So that's 29 event files that were just downloaded. And those are typically going to be set for your download folder. So if I go into my download folder and I sort that by date, I can see that these files have been downloaded. You're going to do the same type of thing for CSV files. And if you want to do selected files, just make sure that the file type that you want to download is highlighted in the select columns so that that shows up, and you can choose these were already downloaded. You can choose the specific files that you want to download. For these CSV files, I'm just going to download these 4 most recent. I'm going to click on download selected CSV files, and then I'm going to click the download button, and it should download those 4 CSV files. In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to use the graphing function, graphing features of the UWAVE Project Data Table. And to start off with, we're just going to go ahead and click the graph button. By default, you should be graphing particle velocity. There's other values that you can graph, but you're going to typically graph particle velocities by date. And if this is too broad of a range, typically what I recommend doing is filtering by date or week, or however you want to filter your data. And then you can click the filtered button versus the all button up here and graph only the filtered data. You can see here it's June 22nd, 2017, and we've got a timeline of data for the day. If you want to change your graph type, that's done down here at the bottom. You can choose between US Bureau of Mines, Office of Surface Mining Reclamation, the German DIN 4150, Swiss Piling, Swiss Traffic, British 7385 Compliance, a simple line graph, an area graph, the bar chart which is shown, or a vertical stack bar chart. So just to show you some of these different ones, this is the Office of Surface Mining compliance graph here. German 4150, Swiss piling, Swiss traffic, British 7385, the line graph, the area graph, the standard vertical bar, and the vertical stacking bar if you've got multiple features you're trying to graph. And then if you want to print this with the associated data table, your best option is to right click somewhere below the graph, right about in this area, and do a print. And then that way you'll have your data table and your graph that you can print out. If you use the print button, it's just going to print the table